Lee, it's excellent to see you, my friend. You're looking well. How are you tonight?
I'm good, Jason. How are you?
I'm I'm well. You really look good. Like you look like you have been sleeping well. I mean, how you feeling?
I'm feeling okay. It's very cold here in South Dakota, but I
I
have
believe it.
5 weeks left, and then I'll not be cold to be corrupt because I'll be heading back to D.C. area,
That's
Virginia.
pretty exciting, right?
Yeah, very exciting.
It really is a new era in many ways, Lee. Going back to, the Trump presidency, I'm hopeful, but there are still a lot of concerns. We want to talk tonight about this really. I'm feeling kind of upset about this, to tell you the truth, Lee. The whole pardoning of Hunter Biden. People are going to be able to join us at 8:30 on the sponsor exclusive segment. That's going to be on patreon.com/Stranahan and also on odyssey.com/@crowdsource the truth and all the other crowdsource the truth sponsor channels. Lee, I've had a little Twitter mishap, X mishap. Of course, people can follow you on X at Stranahan. You're doing some awesome work with Flux here and other AI tools. That's a good way for people to keep up with all your artwork. What's the newest stuff here on X for you?
Well, let's go back to what you said for a second. Actually, it's interesting the way you started that. You said you talked about how you feel, okay? And I asked people last night, how do you feel about the Hunter Biden pardon? Because I felt, I'll be honest about it. I felt sad. I felt
Why
sad
sad? Why sad?
because I think it says something very bad about our country. The
Yeah.
fact that this can happen. And I think it's not private, it's worldwide news. Like BBC today, that was the top story. So, I mean, look, pretend as a country, I'll make up a country, you know, you know, uh, Jason Stan, okay?
Yeah.
Let's say you heard on the news that Jason Stan's, and you know nothing about Jason Stan. You know
Yeah.
nothing about it, but you heard that their leader, their president, uh, dropped all criminal charges against his son,
Yeah.
right?
You'd think
Now,
they're
what would you
criminals,
think of that country
obviously.
if
Criminals.
you, based on nothing but that, what did you think?
That they're corrupt and that it's criminals and that it's obviously just obvious criminality.
And if you looked at more into it and saw it's, you know, it was he pled guilty to one thing, and then if you found out that he had been pardoned also for any crimes he may have committed from 2014 on, because don't forget, there's sort of two parts to this. There's he's pardoned for crimes that he's committed and been found guilty of, or pled guilty to, right? But there's also stuff about any crimes after 2014,
Right.
and that's a more significant thing to me. Now, if you heard that, you'd go, "What? What kind of country is that?" So again, it's kind of depressing about our country. It says something very bad about us to the
I
world.
think you've hit it on the head, Lee. That's exactly what I'm feeling. Because it's really just so depressing and upsetting and right. I mean, look, you say whatever you want about all the Rambo movies, rah rah, greatest country in the world, and blah blah blah. But you just summed it up right there. That is pure corruption. A 5-year-old could understand that. And the worst
Right.
part about it, Lee, you know, it's not it's not just, even though everything that you just said is 100% correct, it's not just that simple. I was watching Dersh earlier. I think
Right.
I really despise that guy. I find him to be truly an example of evil, amoral psychopath, in my opinion. But he's interesting to observe, particularly what he's doing in the media sphere. He's still so active. And he was trying to say that in some ways this is good because it shows that Hunter Biden was targeted. Dershowitz was really emphasizing how rare it is for someone to be charged for this particular crime. First of all, because you would almost never have an opportunity to find out about it. You'd never see that form. It's just filed and nobody looks at it. So he's being selectively prosecuted according to Dershowitz because he's a Biden. But what I realized as Dershowitz was giving this thou doth explain too much. What I realized, Lee, was that this whole thing with bringing these outlier, super rare charges against Hunter was calculated specifically to give him this open door pardon. I think it's reprehensible. Let me ask you a question. First, your opinion, and also, is there a mechanism towards this? Shouldn't the president, I don't like the presidential pardon at all, but if you're going to have it, shouldn't the president be compelled to articulate the specific crimes for which the individual is being pardoned?
I think so too. But let's go back to what Dersh said, because I think he is interesting to watch. One thing, I don't like him either, but he's very smart and he knows the law and he knows tricks around the law. Agreed?
Yes, exactly. That's why I like to watch him, to see what that
Yes.
tricky, slippery guy is up to.
Yes. And so a few things occur to me about this indictment. First off, you said, what I'm going to disagree with something you said. You said most people wouldn't have the forum to publish a book about, but everyone has got the forum now because of social media. So here's what I'm saying. Let's say someone was bragging on social media and they became a big influencer, they blew up, let's say, like someone you never heard of before, but now everyone knows who they are. Not everyone, but follow me, like 1 million
Sure.
followers.
Okay.
Why? Whatever. And he was talking about how he showed a picture of a gun and he bragged about having a good gun and he bragged about being a drug user at the time. I would say in that case, they very well might be charged.
You're right. You're right.
And I again, the argument that this would only happen, his name was Biden. I disagree. Now, I think it might only happen if your name is Jefferson or Jackson or some other African American name.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying it's the saying that this is only happening because his name is Biden is absolute nonsense. But that seems to be the fake story that the corporate media wants everybody to parrot. And that's the story that Dershowitz was coming out with. And to me, it's just, this is another example of lawfare. I mean, it's not just as simple as bringing annoying lawsuits against Donald Trump or, George's brother suing me, or that whatever that Speedway bomber dude suing you. Sure, that is lawfare.
Yeah.
What was his name? Kimberlin? Yeah, Brad Kimberlin. Yeah. Sure. I mean, that is lawfare, but also this whole business with Abby Lowell and everything they did here with Hunter Biden was so carefully calculated and orchestrated. So, but how do you see this, or do you see this benefiting Kash Patel?
So I'll talk about that in a sec. But, my dedication to my craft, journalism, knows no bounds. I torture myself sometimes for my job. And today I listened to an entire Karine Jean-Pierre press conference.
Did she do one today?
She did, on Air Force One. It's on
Ooh.
YouTube. If you type in KJP, Hunter Biden, maybe Air Force One. That's how I got to it. You might not have to type all that in, but the entire press conference is up there and you can listen to it. And it's heard with Jake Sullivan. See, the president's on his way to Africa for a bunch of stuff. So this press conference, I listened to the entire thing. Now, the press wanted to talk about Hunter, but KGP held him back for a little bit.
It's just audio, right?
That's right. But that's what you need. If you had a choice with Karine Jean-Pierre, would you rather have just audio or just video?
No, I mean, anything she says is going to be stupid, though.
Well, so let me defend KGB for 1 second.
Okay.
She's not working with good material. I mean, when she was saying the president was not pardon Hunter Biden, as she said it like 20 times, right? Why was she saying that? Is it her fault?
Joe Biden told her to say it.
Right. And if she went back to him and said, "Are you sure?" He would have said, "Yeah." And so when they ask her about it, what can she do? I mean, the press secretary's job the press secretary is like a puppet, a ventriloquist puppet.
Yeah, no, just to say what the president once said to the press. Absolutely.
Right. And so if I look, if Jason's stupid, the puppet said that. It's not me. It's not me. You can't get mad at me. Get mad at the puppet. You see what I'm saying?
You got to
So
get the Gary puppet. Or remember when they used to have the Jackie puppet on Howard Stern? What the hell happened to Howard Stern, Lee? That Jackie puppet was so... Oh, because it was Billy West doing the voice of the Jackie puppet. Remember that thing? It
but
was so
also
funny.
Triumph the Insult Comic Dog.
Yeah, that was good too.
That's my
Was
favorite
that?
puppet. Triumph.
But that's not Billy West, though. It's a different guy.
No, you're right. And but Robert Schmeichel. But
Right, there you
great
go.
show. But anyway, I saw Bongino today talking about how I wouldn't say she was lying for months. You see what I'm saying? Some people are saying, oh, she's been lying for months. It's not her, it's Biden. And
Yeah.
again, it's not good material she's working with. So when you've been telling effectively lies for months, and now your job is to talk to the press about that, I can't exactly blame in person. I
Yeah.
would like to think, would it be great if she came out and said, "Look, Biden lied to me too, so I'm
Oh,
up
yeah,
here."
but she can't do that. She'd be
She can't
fired
do it.
5 minutes later.
Right, and never work anywhere
Yeah, you can't do that.
again. That's not your job. So I never try to blame a puppet, but KGP held it back to press. At first, Jake Sullivan talked about the purpose of the trip to Africa. Makes sense, okay. And then the press was all in on Hunter Biden questions, but no one asked the important question. Now, what they were asking her was basically, what about Biden saying he wouldn't do it? And she said what she could say, which is he changed his mind, basically.
Exactly. I mean, that's a
what else
stupid
could
question.
you
They're
say?
making such a big deal out of this, Lee, right? Aren't they? All the press is saying, oh, he lied, he lied. I'm not that hung up on that because the second he said it, I knew he was lying and I knew he would do this.
No, but I think they missed the point. The point is, so what they were asking her was, how did Joe Biden come to this decision? What's new information? And that's valid to ask. But then they
Right.
kept on that. That's all they asked, basically.
Yeah.
So my question would have been, because her answer was basically, the president looked at this, thought it was unfair treatment for his son, and so that's what happened.
Yeah.
That's all she could say. But they
Yeah.
didn't ask her, okay, even if I grant your premise that this is unfair about Hunter Biden in these two cases, why did he pardon him on things that he had not been in charge or indicted with? You see what I'm saying?
You're saying they failed to ask that. Yeah, that's the question to really
Right.
ask because it makes it look like this whole entire thing from the beginning was set up to be able to pardon Hunter Biden. And I'm sure next we're going to hear about James Biden and whoever else Biden needs to be pardoned going back to 2014 to make sure nothing happens to them.
And by the way, I don't think it was set up to issue a pardon. I think it played out at first. Remember, Hunter rejected a plea deal. I mean, he didn't
Well,
go along.
right, you're right.
Terms.
Forgive me, I misspoke. I mean, the whole thing was curated from start to finish to make sure that nothing happened to him. And when that plea deal failed, they had backup plan after backup plan after backup plan. And this was
But
the
I'll
final.
tell you how I would proceed were I Kash Patel. Okay, we'll get to the subject. But if I were in charge, I would pursue the Burisma investigation and Joe Biden's role in that. Here's why. Even though you can't, let's say, okay, let's take two possibilities. One is you're not going to be able to get Hunter Biden ever on those charges. Okay, the pardon will stick. Let's pursue that. There's two possibilities. The pardon will stick or will not. Okay, so right. So I don't really
Yes.
care about Hunter Biden in a sense. I care about Joe Biden, right? Joe Biden is not pardoned, and he can't pardon himself. So I would pursue the investigation. And if it turns out that Joe Biden was involved in corruption, which I think is clear, but they need to prove it, right? So if it turns out to be the case, I think his pardon was invalid. Now it would have to go to the Supreme Court. We're in uncharted territory. But I think the issue is it's not Joe Biden issuing a pardon to his son. That's not the issue. People are saying, well, it's about his family. That's a ruse. This is about him in pardoning someone who is a partner in corruption with Joe Biden. Does that make sense? Not a son, a partner in corruption.
You know, I hear you. The thing is, obviously I'm not a lawyer, Lee, but just anytime I've ever looked into, like, can a presidential pardon be overturned, people say that, you know, they refer to this thing in the Constitution where it says that there's no judicial something or other, like the pardon is supposed to be checks and balances on the judicial branch, so the Supreme Court cannot overturn it. I mean, I suppose Congress could alter the Constitution in such a way if they succeeded so that future presidents can't do stuff, but I think they can't do much here.
I'll tell you what is precedent, I think. So not the same issue, but it's related. And again, the Supreme Court would have to interpret this. Again, it's not an easy thing, but the judges are immune from being prosecuted for acts they do within their, as a judge. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, but if they're not acting within their
judicial duties, the canons of judicial conduct, etc., but yet they do it all the time and nothing happens.
Well, let me tell you, that's not true. That nothing happens. Judges are sometimes prosecuted.
Sometimes, yes.
Judicial immunity, and again, all we're looking for is some kind of precedent. Like in my divorce case, the judge did not do a jurisdiction hearing. The first thing a judge is supposed to do anytime, in any case, is establish jurisdiction, right? So if he didn't establish jurisdiction, he wasn't acting. Anything else after that was not within his purview as a judge. You see what I'm saying? So I think pardons made to cover up criminal conduct by the president. And again, it's never been adjudicated. But I'm not arguing that he was not acting in his role as president. He was acting in his role as co-conspirator to a crime.
So, no, I think what you're getting to, Lee, has merit. And here's the part that I was also coming to. So it says in there that the president shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. And I think this is the one area for legal interpretation that you're talking about, because that's vague. And since Joe Biden is the one who would be impeached, you know, this interpretation over here is saying that, you know, the president's power to grant pardons is limited by the exception of cases of impeachment, which means the president cannot use a pardon to stop an office holder from being impeached. Well, the legal argument would have to be made that he granted this pardon to his son to stop himself from being impeached.
That's exactly right. That's what I'm saying. So I would pursue the investigation.
That could be right there.
That's a predicate, yeah. And let's talk about impeachment for a second. Let's talk about Donald Trump's impeachment. Now, think about this. What was he impeached for?
Calling up Zelensky.
For urging Zelensky to investigate Hunter Biden. Right, for this. And if he didn't do anything, why did Joe Biden pick that date? Where's the 2014 date from?
Right.
Obviously, Burisma. Right. He didn't say, like, anything he's done in the last 20 years.
Right. Yeah, it's so obvious.
So the whole argument they were making in the impeachment is that Donald Trump was pursuing unlawfully something about under Biden. This pardon actually proves the case that Trump
Exactly.
was making. You
Well
see?
put. Good point.
Yeah. So it's
It's
very interesting.
sickeningly, you're right. I am feeling very upset. I'm glad that you said that earlier in the show because I couldn't really put my finger on it, but I've been feeling very uneasy all day. And this is why Joe Biden and his filthy presidency have cheapened the United States and every single one of us.
Right. It puts down our foreign policy is based on money to certain people. Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, it eliminates any doubt about that fact. It's sickening.
And again, it's one of those things, some people like to be cynical, like, well, whatever, what did you expect? But to my mind, that's a way of sort of trying to keep from being really depressed. Make sense?
Yeah, I mean, with things like this, it's hard to say. People have lots of different kind of like defense mechanisms or
Right. I would
whatever.
say it's a defense mechanism.
Yeah,
That's exactly what I
I
think.
think that's right. So okay, so let's talk a bit about okay, that's what we'd like to see Kash Patel do, but I don't know if Kash Patel is going to be able to get confirmed in the Senate. He's a controversial figure, isn't he?
Well, so uh, yes, but here's why I think this helps Kash Patel get confirmed. Any Democrat who comes out aggressively on Kash Patel is going to have to answer. See, do you know Biden really screwed over here? Think about this. Who is a victim of what Biden did? Who should be
Democrats
most
in
pissed?
2028, 26.
I I would say the whole Democrat Party,
Yeah,
right?
people running in 2026 and 28.
I mean, and people running, including right senators, were running in 2026.
Yeah.
Some of whom are Democrats.
Yeah.
So so and some are Republicans. So if they want to make Cash Patel an issue, they're going to have to deal with voters in 2 years. And the impression, because let me make the point a little bit further. I think the person Biden really screwed over here, the organization, were the Democrats, because anyone looking at this, going, come on, I mean, average working person who doesn't follow politics too much,
Yeah.
this is so obviously corrupt, right
Yeah.
on the
Yeah,
face of it.
and a kid would think it can put this together.
And uh, one thing I think about that is that Joe Biden, and look, when I say he screwed the Democrats, would that also be consistent with his current mindset?
Yeah. He's
I
pissed
mean,
that they pushed him out, right?
right. And he's obviously angry about it.
Yep. I agree.
And I'll
He's
tell you
made
not to get,
comments, hasn't he? He was at some Thanksgiving soup kitchen handing out food, like telling the homeless people how pissed off he was to be delivering food instead of continuing to be the president.
well, here's who's not going to get pardoned. Kamala Harris. You watch. She's not going
What,
to get any, she's not getting anything. She's not getting
right.
a Christmas card.
Yeah. She didn't do any crimes that we know of, though, did she?
What's that?
She didn't do any crimes that we're aware of, did she?
Well, Hunter Biden didn't do any crimes he's been charged with from 2014. You see? So,
Right.
uh,
Oh, right. So he's going
you
to
see what I'm
leave her
saying?
there. Yeah.
He could give her a pardon for any crimes committed since 2014. Because one thing about Kamala Harris, she does know a bit about Ukraine. She knows
That's true.
she knows the truth. Now, the
Yep.
other way in which this helps, and that's what I thought you were going to say, with Hunter Biden being pardoned, let's assume it holds, because you have to assume that.
It will.
But that means he can be called in to testify, and he's not facing any threat.
A
He
lot of
he
people are
can't plead
talking about that. Yeah.
he can't plead the fifth.
Yeah. But I just think I think what's going to happen is you're never going to see him again, and he's not testifying anywhere.
Well, that's what's going to happen if we have a squish for a attorney general.
Or he could
And
say that he's dead, and just disappear and go live with Robert David Steele. That seems to be a popular thing to do. Hey, but Lee, I'm looking at the time here, and we've got to make our move here to the sponsor-exclusive segment. People are going to be able to join us in just 5 minutes on patreon.com/Stranahan. Sponsor Lee on there. Go over and check out patreon.com/Stranahan.
Before we go, Jason, one quick thing before we go. Because if you don't subscribe to Patreon, I'm doing a new thing, that Legacy Media Roundup. Every day, I post from 5 legacy media sources: Fox, NPR, BBC, DW, Deutsche Welle, and ABC News. And I'm posting a 5-minute roundup of everything they cover.
On X?
What'd you say?
Where are you posting that, on X?
I've been putting on X. You'll see a Patreon link, but it's for members only at this point. Paid subscribers. So it's another reason to be a paid subscriber. Because by seeing what stories the media covers and doesn't cover, that's what's key. You really get a sense of where the news is.
And where it is and where it is not is what you get a sense of.
Yeah. And if you go down a day or two, they're live. They're audio and print. So if you like reading, you can. But if you like...
There it is, Legacy Media Roundup. Okay, so for people who sponsor Lee on patreon.com...
me AI, so I don't stammer.
Sponsor Lee on patreon.com/Stranahan. You're going to get access to the Legacy Media Roundup. That's great. And another great reason to sponsor Lee on there. Thanks to everybody who sponsors the show. You can sponsor Crowdsource the Truth on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth. We couldn't do this without you guys. Thanks so much. We'll be right back. Stay with us. We've got more on Kash Patel